The film begins with Shuri working very hard in her lab, as T'Challa is dying from a mysterious disease, and she is hoping to find a cure. When she discovers a possible solution, she is met by Ramonda, who tells her that her brother has died. The nation of Wakanda retains a funeral procession for their beloved king. Every citizen is dressed in white, and a painting of T'Challa has been painted on the wall. T'Challa's casket is brought out by Shuri and Ramonda until a ship arrives to take him up. Shuri weeps one last time over her brother's casket as the nation performs the Wakandan salute. A year later, Ramonda shows up at the United Nations. The U.S. Secretary of State criticizes Wakanda for failing to fulfill their promise to become involved in global affairs. The French SOS also claims that the Wakandans are hoarding vibranium in order to build weapons of mass destruction. Ramonda responds that they are still grieving T'Challa's death and are aware of what would happen if vibranium fell into the hands of outsiders. The night before, mercenaries trying to obtain vibranium infiltrated an outreach facility in Mali, but they were encountered by Dora Milaje warriors led by Okoye, and all of whom quickly incapacitated them. The Dora Milaje then parades the captured mercenaries before the United Nations, where Okoye forces them to kneel. Before they exit, Ramonda warns them that any further attempts like this will be met with a harsh response. In the Atlantic Ocean, a CIA group led by Dr. Graham works with a vibranium detecting device. Two divers go underwater and discover that their mining drill has been trashed, just before they are kidnapped and killed by unidentified assailants. Shortly afterward, a tribe of blue-skinned people known as Talokans emerges and attacks the ship, killing everyone on board. Dr. Graham and her colleague try to flee in a helicopter, but Talokan leader Namor grabs the helicopter and tosses it into the sea. Ramonda and Okoye return to Wakanda, where Ramonda discovers Shuri developing new technology. Shuri rejects her mother's suggestion that she keep working on her artificial heart-shaped herb to revive the Black Panther because she sees the Black Panther as a cultural relic and only created the herb to save T'Challa. Ramonda then leads Shuri to the water in an attempt to burn their ceremonial garbs in order to end the mourning period and begin celebrating T'Challa's life. Shuri is furious at the world for her brother's death. Moments later, they are encountered by Namor, who informs Ramonda and Shuri that he was dissatisfied with T'Challa's judgment to expose Wakanda to the rest of the world, because it exposed his kingdom to attackers, as Talokans also possess vibranium. Namor orders them to find and bring the scientist who created the vibranium detecting machine to him, or else he will attack Wakanda. He also tells them not to tell anyone about his existence. Ramonda assigns Okoye to find the scientist, but Shuri joins her despite her mother's objections. She and Okoye travel to Virginia to question Everett Ross about the scientist. To their surprise, Ross reveals that the scientist is an MIT teenager named Riri Williams. Shuri enters Riri's dorm room and informs her that she must accompany them, as well as learning that her vibranium detecting machine was merely a school project that the CIA acquired. Riri doesn't think the urgency until Okoye appears from her bathroom and forces Riri to accompany them. Riri takes Shuri and Okoye to her garage to work on her projects. Soon after, FBI agents show up at the garage, forcing the ladies to act quickly and flee. Riri gets her own iron armor suit that allows her to fly, while Shuri and Okoye try to flee. A drone pursues them, but Riri is able to shoot it down before she starts running out of oxygen. The drone then crashes across many cop cars, letting Shuri and Okoye to continue their journey. Unfortunately, they are stopped when the Talokans enclose them on a bridge and throw a water explosive at them, and knocking Shuri out. Riri also crashes upon the scene, and the Talokans try to capture her, but Okoye gets involved in battle with them, apparently killing 3 soldiers before confronting the General Atuma. He tries to kill her with her own spear until she shocks it free, and the other 3 Talokans start rising uninjured. When Okoye tries to keep fighting, she is smashed off the bridge. Shuri regains consciousness and tells the Talokans to take her and Riri with them. The next day, Ross goes to the crime scene on the bridge, where he is met by Contessa Valentina de Fontaine, who is now the director of the CIA and Ross's ex-wife. Ross tracks down Shuri's Kimoyo beads and steals them. Okoye returns to Wakanda before the council to ask Ramonda to lead a group underwater to find Shuri, but Ramonda deprives Okoye of her rank as general and her position as Dora Milaje for her failure to keep Shuri safe. Ramonda visits Shuri's lab and instructs her AI griot to locate Shuri's beads. She reaches Ross, who speaks to her privately behind Val's back. He informs Ramonda that the CIA claims to believe Wakanda is to blame for the mining ship attack, but Ramonda is unable to reveal much about Namor's involvement. Ramonda travels to Haiti, where she discovers Nakia has been working at a school since the blip. While she and Ramonda are delighted to meet each other, Ramonda sees that Nakia was not present at T'Challa's funeral. Nakia tells Ramonda that she can't bear the thought of it being the end of his life, even though Ramonda tells her that death is never the end for Wakandans. She requests Nakia's assistance in rescuing Shuri. Nakia travels to the Yucatan Peninsula to speak with a local village woman who has encountered Namor and identifies his legend as Kukulkan, or the feathered serpent god. Down in Talokan, Shuri has been provided cultural garbs to dress before going to meet with Namor. He begins to tell her his backstory. In 1571, his mother was part of a village infected with smallpox following the arrival of Spanish conquistadors. For salvation, the people have turned to the god Chak. They discovered a blue material beneath the water that they ingested to cure their ailments, but it changed their skin blue and forced them underwater because they could no longer breathe air. Namor was born with wings on his ankles and the capacity to breathe both on land and underwater, making him unique among his peers. His mother died heartbroken from missing her life on the surface, and when he came to bury her, he discovered the conquistadors robbing and enslaving the villagers. Namor and the Talokans attacked, with one priest referring to Namor as Neo Sin Amor, a child without love, which is where his name comes from, because he has no love for the surface world. He takes Shuri forward and shows her his empire, a prosperous and thriving nation similar to Wakanda, and he asks Shuri to assist in protecting their kingdoms from the rest of the world. Nakia sets out on her mission to find Shuri and Riri. Meanwhile, Ramonda meets with Namor after speaking with Ross, who informs her that the CIA is looking into taking action against Wakanda in connection with the mining ship attack. When Ramonda tells Namor to accept responsibility, he warns her against retaliating against the Wakandans if they threaten Talokan's exposure. Nakia makes her way underwater and counteracts Namor's cousin Namora before she may attempt to kill Shuri. She flees with Shuri and Riri, but Namor discovers the warrior as she dies and interprets it as an attack on Wakanda, leading his warriors to strike back. Nakia and Okoye reunite in the city, but they soon notice the area flooding before knowing they are under attack. The Talokans start water bombing the city, flooding it and destroying buildings. M'Baku leads his Jabari warriors into battle, while Shuri uses her technology to fight back. Namor arrives at the palace and heavily water bombs it, sinking Ramonda and Riri. Namor orders Shuri to enter them in the attack on the surface world, or Wakanda will be wiped out completely. Ramonda successfully drags Riri to the surface, but they are both unconscious. The Dora Milaje are able to resurrect Riri, but Ramonda has died. After the attack of Talokans, a funeral is held for Ramonda. M'Baku tries to console Shuri and offer advice, as T'Challa has requested, but she is grieving the loss of her entire family. Meanwhile, Val has Ross apprehended after discovering he was secretly communicating with Ramonda. While the rest of Wakanda prepares for Namor's return, Shuri completes her Midnight Angel suits for Okoye and another Dora Milaje warrior, Annika, while Riri continues to work on her own iron suit. Shuri discovers that the bracelet Namor gave her contains a material used by the Talokans to live underwater, which she successfully combines with T'Challa's DNA to create an artificial heart-shaped herb. Shuri ingests the herb with Nakia and Okoye and enters the ancestral plane, hoping to see Ramonda for guidance. Instead, she is confronted by an unwelcome presence, Killmonger. He reveals that she is seeing him because she is motivated by her desire for vengeance against Namor for her mother's death and her rage over her brother's death, and that she is exactly like him. Killmonger also claims that T'Challa was too noble and would have spared Namor the same way he spared Zemo after his father was killed. When Shuri awakens, she is not able to tell Nakia that she has seen Killmonger and feels abandoned by her mother and brother. She becomes frustrated and punches a statue before realizing she has gained the powers. She realizes that it is now her responsibility to lead the nation in battle, so she goes in search of her own mask. As the tribes debate their next move, a ship flies overhead, and Shuri appears for the first time in her new Black Panther costume. M'Baku declares proudly that the Black Panther is still alive. Shuri then delivers a speech to everyone about what they must do next. With Riri, she devises a strategy for luring Namor to a dry area in order to weaken him and defeat him. To lure the Talokans to them, the Wakandans board a ship and send out a signal from another vibranium detecting machine. The Talokans try to board the ship as the Dora Milaje and Jabari warriors fight back during their showdown. Riri appears in her new Ironheart armor suit, followed by Okoye and Annika in their Midnight Angel suits. Riri hits Namor with a blast, and Shuri captures him in her ship to begin evaporating the water on his skin. Namora attacks Riri, while Okoye fights Atuma again. Riri sends Namora into the sea, while Okoye throws Atuma overboard. Namor uses his spear to try to break the ship, but Shuri battles him with her suit. Shuri attempts to fly the ship toward the desert, but Namor breaks it down and destroys it, causing them to crash. Shuri and Namor fight on, with Namor still strong enough to beat Shuri and impale her. Remembering on Killmonger's words, Shuri is able to escape and recover herself before heading back to fighting Namor. She fires enough heat at Namor with her ship's exhaust to severely weaken him. She picks up his spear and prepares to deliver the killing blow until she sees Ramonda speak to her and tells her to show him who she truly is. Shuri commands Namor to yield so that neither of their people suffers as a result of their vengeance, and Namor agrees. He surrenders and is returned to the Talokans to end their fight and return back home. In the aftermath of the battle, Shuri sends Riri back to Boston but informs her she must leave her suit there for worry of the US resuming its rivalries with Wakanda. She does present Riri with her father's car, which has been repaired. Back in Talokan, Namor tells Namora that they needed to ally with Wakanda because they had no other allies to protect them, and that this will work in their favor. Meanwhile, Okoye sets out to free Ross from captivity. Shuri travels to Haiti to meet Nakia on a beach because she has one thing she wants to do. She sits by a campfire, burning her ceremonial garbs, as she reminisces about T'Challa and finally mourns his death. In the post-credits, Nakia appears with a young boy named Toussaint, who is her and T'Challa's son and thus Shuri's nephew. Nakia affirms that Ramonda did meet him before her death and he has been living peacefully there ever since. Toussaint reveals to Shuri his Wakandan name is T'Challa. She sits and smiles as she realizes her brother's legacy lives on. The final thing we see is a tribute to Chadwick Boseman. The movie ends here. I hope you have enjoyed this. Give thumbs up, share and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Have a good day and thanks for watching.